Thousands of Iraqis surrendered to Allied forces as Operation Desert Storm rolls north through Kuwait and into Iraq, well ahead of schedule and expectations.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Tonight, America at war. Reporting from Saudi Arabia, Tom Brokaw with Garrett Utley in New York.
Good evening. It is one of the largest military operations in modern history, and if the early pattern holds, it will be a very short war and a very complete victory. Operation Desert Storm tonight, rolling through and sealing off Iraqi positions in Kuwait and in Iraq. Almost no opposition. The biggest problem in the early hours, the thousands of Iraqis who have surrendered. There was so little resistance from most units, they made better time racing across the desert than most American commuters during rush hour. This was the 2nd Marine Division, and it rounded up hundreds of Iraqi prisoners as it headed north. NBC's Rick Davis was with the 101st Airborne when it invaded Iraq.
2,000 members of the 101st Airborne landed by helicopter 70 miles inside Iraq. They carried with them a wide arsenal of weapons, including vehicles mounted with TOW missiles. Another 2,000 members of the 101st Airborne and a massive array of weapons are on their way by road, punching their way north. They are, at this point, behind the Revolutionary Guard. They are doing so well that they're running into very little opposition, and those they are meeting are surrendering.
The 18th Army Artillery invaded Iraq as well, sending round after round into enemy positions. Young American gunners were eager to complete the battle.
We had to go kill people, but that's the only way we're getting home. I see it's either them or me.
The big guns of the USS Missouri, a holdover from World War II, were hard at work from the sea, concentrating on the Kuwaiti coastline. The third leg of the air-land-sea battle plan. F-16 attack planes which flew close air support for the troops on the ground. One Marine plane was reported lost today. Saddam Hussein did try another Scud attack on the Saudi capital of Riyadh, and again, the Patriots successfully intercepted. Along the road to Kuwait City, it looks as if the battle has been going on for days, not hours. The destruction is so complete. American military commanders caution the toughest fighting is yet to come. But tonight, they're well ahead of schedule and keeping the pressure on Saddam Hussein.
I would hope that the son of a gun would wake up and smell the coffee, frankly, but we'll just have to wait and see.
We want to remind you that official details are tightly held by the military. We do not yet have a complete list of American casualties, for example, but based on what we know, based on the early going, if it continues in this fashion, and there is no guarantee that it will, but if it does continue in this fashion, it will be a triumph of historic proportions for President Bush and for the American military. NBC's John Cochran is at the White House tonight, and Fred Francis is at the Pentagon. Fred, Iraq promised the mother of all battles, and now it appears that it's about to become an orphan. Let's go to John Cochran and find out what the president is thinking about all of this tonight. John?
Tom, the president has just received a briefing, a military briefing, after which he was described as very gratified by the initial successes. But he was also obviously concerned that American casualties are starting to increase. Having urged other Americans to pray for Allied forces, Mr. Bush did the same at the Episcopal church known as the Church of Presidents, St. John's, just a block from the White House. During the service, the President and Mrs. Bush could hear anti-war protesters pounding drums. As the Bushes left, police moved in to arrest a demonstrator, one of several arrested near the White House. But the President knows overall support for the war is strong. What happens after the war is uncertain. Who, for example, protects Kuwait after the Iraqis are expelled? On Meet the Press, Bush's national security advisor said, this is one job that can be done without Americans.
Certainly, we must have a force around the borders of Kuwait in order to preserve the security of that state. But that might very well be able to be done by Arab forces.
Today, the Soviets criticized Bush for turning down Moscow's request to delay the attack a day or two. U.S. officials say new reports of atrocities by Iraq forced Bush to move.
It was rounding up and executing Kuwaiti citizens, holding some of them hostages as human shields.
And the big question, what does the future hold for Saddam Hussein?
Assuming that he suffers a crushing defeat, does this lower the chances that Saddam can survive politically?
Hopefully.
More than hopefully?
I think the result will be an Iraq with seriously diminished military capability, but still with some defensive capability.
U.S. officials tell NBC News they would not be surprised if the Emir of Kuwait is back in his homeland tomorrow, Kuwait's National Day, the Kuwaiti equivalent of July 4th. Tom?
Thank you, John Cochran, at the White House. The resident